Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the desk for the LJL OU, bringing you that LJL 2021 Summer Split coverage of the LJL 2021 Summer Split playoffs. Axiz facing off Crest Gaming Act. Last one here with Melvin Izzle. This way. Well, this first game, Honey popped off in the no. Hoglet, the other H from Axiz, popped off in the early game. Went absolutely insane. I mean, there's a very specific item that I want to talk to you about in a few minutes. Around the 10-minute mark for Hoglet in particular, which really set the stage for this game. And then the other H later on, Honey, the man that we didn't see for a large majority of this game in a lot of the first few team fights, ended up being just catastrophic in their eventual victory. Crest Gaming out with that first win, and I'm going to take it back a little bit, because I have to pick and ban phase. I'm sorry. Sorry.
No, it's fair. It's a good point to look back to.
Trundle support globally in Tier 1, so that's LCK, LPL, LCS, and LEC, and us wildcard minor regions of like us in the LJL and the Turkey and Brazil and everywhere else, actually had a positive win rate. What's going on here? Like, can you help me?
Okay, so I think the logic behind the Trundle pick was partly the sync up with the Misfortune, because, you know, slowing everybody around a pillar, there's a lot of abilities like this, Oriana Ball, everything like that. Exactly. If you keep them still, it's a good combo. Works. Same thing with Zoe. If you can bump people into a bubble or bump them into a skill shot as they're trying to juke it, it is really hard to do, and you need to be quite proficient with the pillar to get it done consistently, but it can work, and it's a massive zoning tool. So, you're against Jinx, Aphelios, and that Viego pick that, regardless of how, even the Gnar as well, regardless of how many of them are locked in at a single time, all of them attack speed reliant. Trundle Pillar murders that stat, murders the ability to kite away, and with Inno being the only real raw tank on this Gnar, it still has a pretty significant impact, so I can see the point behind it.
But as we come over to the post-game breakdown lobby screen, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't work, as you can see.
No,
in theory.
And what's even crazier, and I love this, is because it defies all logic and statistics. If you get 4 dragons, Melvin, 80% of the time you're meant to win the game globally. Like, that is just how competitive League of Legends works. You get 4 dragons, you're in. 5 dragons, it's almost 99%. It's kind of cracked. Axiz defy these odds with their wallets and the sheer amount of damage that came out in this game, and Hoglet really helped set the stage, as we've talked about. Well, we haven't talked about actually, and I would like to talk about, because at the 10-minute mark, man is so rich and so far ahead. He's further ahead of Honey, which is kind of saying something. Let's be real here. He has a Divine Sundra at 10 minutes, and it takes multiple minutes until anybody else is able to match him in just like a mythic item.
Hoglet was super proactive in this early game, even committing the flash early on to just aggress onto Kassin in the bot side river to really kind of dissuade them continuing the trade, going down to bot lane, anything like that. It also meant, after the fact, because Honey and Nemo were doing what they do and winning a 2v2, they could secure that first dragon that started that snowball that, while CGA ended up winning most of the dragons at the end of it, because Axiz had built up a buffer at the start of 2 dragons, it meant that it took far too long for that win con to come online for CGA, and it was only because Kassin stole 1 dragon and a Baron that ended up being remotely close later on into the game, as I believe we do have some clips that we can take a look at if you want to give it a go.
Let's go over. Let's try and do this clip the first time live on the LJL OU. We're going to see if this works. Let's go over and let's look at this first clip. Coming over, This is the Thresh clip.
Yeah, this is a dirty Thresh hook, so you gotta be watching Nemo right here, as I'm gonna attempt to do a little bit of stuff with a pen. As you can see, the sleep goes on to right here. Okay, I skipped to the next clip. You know what? Pen maybe not the right idea. I have no idea what I just did. Let's go off this clip. Fine. Sure, we'll start here. This is a dragon fight.
So this is the dragon fight in question where obviously Hoglet goes over.
Massive Gnar ultimate into the wall, does manage to secure a lot of it, but as you can just see here, it's Honey cutting out, and it gets very, very close right here. But at the end of the day, CGA do end up coming out on top because of how many back and forth trades that happen here, as I will try and pause it here. Okay, I did it. Good job, me. As you do see now, it is a 3v2, but the HP bars are effectively the same numbers here. It's just Honey attempting to lifesteal off of the crab. But watch what happens when they walk forward. They manage to kill Kassin with a rogue W, but they just chase too far into the crab, and an uncharacteristic move from Honey does end up dropping, meaning CGA do come out of that clip pretty heads up, actually. Much better off for wear than we were expecting them to. Okay, let me try and figure out how to sort up the next clip. Let's go back to us for a moment.
First
Not
time trying to
producer,
get
right? This is why we have beautiful people like Chris to help us out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can't do everything. We can't be a beautiful face analyst saying information to a screen and a camera over the internet and be expected to do stuff. Pusha, if you ask me, pusha. But in all seriousness, like, Axiz just had a very dominant performance from really minute one, it felt like. Honey got a wave advantage at like 6 minutes in. He was a full wave ahead of Milan, was able to rotate around, and Milan was able to catch up. But even then, Honey just had like 6,100 gold, whereas Milan had like 4,000. The only difference was that turret placing he got at the time. He hadn't even got first turret at that point in time. Honey just accelerated where he was more than anybody else on this game outside of Hoglet, who he eventually matched and overcame very quickly, probably pre-20. I don't actually have the live gold stats. I'd love to know that again, but I mean...
I mean, when you're dealing with these two carries, if anything, one thing I will just touch on for the champions that we had there, midway through the split, when we were talking about the power rankings of these players, I highly rated Hoglet and highly rated Honey, partly because with this trifecta of champions, specifically it was Viego in the jungle, and then Jinx Thresh or Aphelios Thresh in the bot lane. When you have these together, it's so much reliability, because if anything goes wrong, you have a Viego as a comeback tool. And if a Viego pops off, that enables a Jinx to pop off. Funnily enough, we know for a fact, as we saw multiple times in this game, that Hoglet and Honey can execute on team fights very, very well with the minutest of missteps from them. So it's just that kind of thing that you look at it and go, CGA, you must have really been confident coming into this game to think that you could hand over those three in the first rotation and then think you get away with it?
Well, I mean, there could be the method to the madness of going, how bad can it be? Let's give them everything they want, and let's see how bad it is. And if it's actually like house is on fire, everything is fine, we're pretending it's all fine internally, you can then ban some of these champions out. I am surprised that Thresh got over. I am surprised that Jinx got over. But in this kind of metagame at the moment, Melvin Izzle, there's a lot of high priority stuff you have to ban. Like, obviously,
it's true.
Like Gwen now isn't such a problem. We're on 11.15, so Gwen is far less priority. Didn't even get picked or banned in this rotation. I don't expect to see her, honestly, throughout most of this series. We might see her, but she's just a lot more fair. So pros are less keen on fair things. And I mean, I would be too. If I was at the top level, I want to play the unfair stuff and get free wins. And I mean, Hoglet did that on the Viego, honestly. So I mean, what if it ain't broke, don't play it. I think that's the sentiment.
That's close enough to it. It definitely hits the same mark. And I think that CGA almost hit the mark with what they were trying to do. I think the Kha'Zix is not exactly the way to go, but frankly, it's one of those ones where you look at it and go, you've got to find something abstract, right? And if it's Trundle support and Kha'Zix mid, I suppose, Kha'Zix jungle even, I suppose that's a way to do it. I was saying mid there because I just keep looking at Nakion and hoping that they sub in their support if they have one that can play, because Nakion in the support role, yeah, it was fine, but it's not what you need when they are meant to be your primary mechanism to take down Axiz.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be very shortly going back over to our casters of Midnight and Nymera to bring you that second action. We're just getting word that the official stream has switched over to their casters, so we will be prepping that one. But I want to just say one last thing to Melvin Izzle before we do go over to our casters. What's the spicy thing we're going to see Nathan play in the support role this time? We've got 3 different champions now, so
Okay.
what one are we going to get this time? Is it going to be like a Morgana? Is it going to be a more traditional support? Or
I have one, and I
Okay.
don't know if he plays it, but the champion I
not?
want to see Nathan on to win the game for his team solo, Blitzcrank.
I'm okay
That's the
with
one
that
champion.
one.
If I see it, then I could trust them to actually be able to win the game.
I mean, it was your former. It's not a protege. Your Phil, your replacement. You replaced Arya. Arya's kryptonite for a period of time was that Blitzcrank from Rascal Jesters. I will, yes, go back to spring season 2020 when he was going off on the Silas, a Blitzcrank hook into an ultimate, eliminated CGA's opportunity in that match, and Rascal Jesters won that one. Maybe Nation can do that, but on the opposite side, and actually get his team a victory. A win here would really help the momentum because now Crest Gaming actually on a 5-loss streak from the regular split and with this first match. So momentum is really in Axiz's favor at the moment. But let's go over to our casters, as I believe actually pick and ban phase has started.
It'd be great if Midnight wasn't muted, because that would be awesome for actually talking about the pick and ban. You there, mate? You there, mate?
No, I'm muted in both places, on my mic and in Discord. Okay, so
Incredible.
now, no one ever said I was a smart man. Coming through game number 2, coming through here, and I can't see the big ban.
Yes, things like actually we've lost our own feed on this side, so we're gonna quickly go back towards that. Luckily, see, I have the actual stream up on the other side too, as we because we see a lot of the similar kind of picks and bans coming through. Although this time, Axiz actually choose to ban away the misfortune. Interestingly,
I'm not sure I like that ban, honestly. I feel like if Milan is comfortable on the MF, yes, the whole idea of get them off what they're comfortable. But when I think of that last game there, I don't look at that misfortune and think, oh god, that was a nightmare to deal with. Yes, there was some really good bullet times coming out of it, but, and maybe this is just the bias because I don't like misfortune, I think you should just let it through personally, but obviously,
yeah,
not happening.
Yeah, so of course we've got a couple of technical issues on our side, I think, just now. Just waiting to get back towards that pick and ban, just to try and fill you in on what's happening. So we have Syndra, Jinzhao, Misfortune banned by Axiz. On the other side, it is going to be the Aphelios, of course, one of Honey's staple champions as well, LeBlanc and Ziggs. So similar to what we saw from CGA last time. Inno going to lock in that Viego for the first pick for Axiz. On the other side, it is going to be the Renekton and the Varus locked in to respond. Going quite similarly to what happened in that last draft, except, of course, we don't have the misfortune. We've got the Varus as the safe AD carry for the side of Milan.
Yeah, but then Jinx Thresh. I'm really, really alarmed.
Yep.
You've given Axiz the exact same first 3 picks here. And yes, I know that Varus is better into Jinx than the misfortune is, if memory serves. But I still think that this is CGA not fully reading the situation here. Yes, I understand the Aphelios ban. Yes, I understand the need for the MF ban. No, I don't understand the need for the Ziggs ban, but why can't you just take the Jinx Thresh for yourself? Like, if you're, okay, maybe Nathan can't play the Thresh, fine, but nothing's stopping Milan from taking the Jinx.
Oh, but this is what's really starting to, well, first off, I don't think that Milan necessarily has the laning presence to play something like a Jinx. I think that's a problem, particularly when you don't have, you know, the safety that you're usually afforded to by Misfortune and lane. Varus, who can continually farm with their abilities too. What CG have gone towards this time is less about zoning the Jinx out from the team fights. It's more going towards what they tried to do in the mid game. Land asleep into some just huge follow-up damage. In this case, if you land the Zoe sleep into the WQ from Varus, someone just pops. They're gone at that point. So I actually wonder if Axiz do go towards an Azir again. I actually think you can go for something which can close the distance a bit more and something that can just try and dive in a little. But you can understand the combo from CJ. It's not quite an analog to the Misfortune as the Varus, but you can see the combo that's being set up between Kaito again on the comfort champion that they've shown, and then Milan's champion pool as well.
Yeah, the identity is very, very similar, but the question will be, well, can you perform it? And if Nahun finally gets... one of the questions I asked was, where is the Leona from CGA's Nahun? Obviously, they are willing to pick it up here, and I think that's absolutely mandatory. You need to get on top of that Jinx.
So, Okay, right. Looks like we have, of course, the last solo lanes to be locked in. Of course, Viego continually going towards the jungle now, not really as much as a flex pick as it was. It's going to be a very similar draft, actually, for the side of Axiz. I'm trying to see what they end up, like, actually finishing out that draft with, as they're waiting for mid lane, hovering the team. I'm not sure that's a likelihood.
Probably not there. I like the idea of the teamer, but yeah, no, it's unfortunately not going to happen.
So we have the Orianna as the last pick in, which is, again, huge team fight. And something that, you know, if you jump... So first off, you have an extra shield to chuck on someone that is hit by a sleep. But if you jump too far forward as the Zoe now, suddenly it's a shockwave following that up as well. So Kaito, you cannot afford to overstep. And Cassin seeing this is actually going, okay, a mobile mid in the mid lane now, not actually just the Azir. Lock in the Olaf. That seems fun.
Yeah, so good to run them down there as we finally get a good look at our two compositions. Very similar things from Axiz and CGA. Both teams are bringing very similar things to the table here. Hopefully, though, it goes a bit better for CGA than it did in the first round.
Okay. So just getting some word from our production side of things as well, just to try and work out some of those kinks in our production right now. We are going to throw, well, we have the time, just to a quick 1 minute break. You see the draft on the screens, and we'll see you very, very shortly.
We're right back into it, guys. Thank you for staying around. As of course, taking a look at the pick and ban, a little bit of variation, but identities remaining the same. CGA looking at their last match and saying, look, we made a few errors, but the idea was a solid one. Let's give it another crack.
Okay, so looking now towards these drafts again, we have a couple of returning picks. Megamin is not someone I necessarily think of as much as an Orianna player, but they have clocked in 5 games of it actually, so they are 3-2. Last time they played, it was actually the game just before this playoffs match. It would have been the tiebreaker between them and V3 at the top of that table, where they swiftly demolished their opposition in those big team fights. Some big ults coming through. Question for me now is, okay, you are against a very tanky front line in an Olaf, a Leona, and also Renekton to an extent too, but also a very long-range backline that can be very hard to reach with that shockwave as well. It shows a different skill set to try and find the more difficult ultimates and then also play a more peeling role for your AD carry too. So this is a bit more of a time to show your experience and show your learning for this mid laner of Axiz and see what is the ceiling of your mage play.
Yeah, and I really do like, and I've been saying this for a while now, Mary. You've probably heard me say it 100 times already. I love a good Orianna. I just love Orianna in general. A good Orianna, in my mind, even nowadays, can still basically single-handedly win you a team fight if played properly, and absolutely should be able to go toe-to-toe in especially difficult lanes. And we know, specifically this mid lane, Zoe, when she was first released, when she first, really hit the pro scene, she was basically the anti-mage.
She was no. She was the anti-everything Midnight, and I hated it. It was my worst. That is my nightmare when I think of League nightmares. I mean, some people think of like release Xin Zhao, Season 1 TF where he could teleport globally on his E. I think of release Zoe because I ain't about that life. I ain't about using Ignite and suddenly getting killed because they've double ignited me back.
Yeah, I feel like your Arari didn't exactly have a good time.
No, it didn't. I hated it. I started playing Talon instead because at least Zoe can die to that.
That's what League forced you to become, a Talon player.
That's what I became. I became an AD assassin main.
The Ari is disappointed in you, mate. You can see him just like lurking behind you, just waiting to pounce on you, man. They're judging. All right, so again, looking at this game a little bit here, the Zoe should be fine in the mid lane. And I'm trying to remember what the top lane matchup was off the top of my head. It was Ino and Na again. What a surprise! The
Yes,
LJL.
looks like we're actually getting in towards game. Although I will ask production to please show us that feed as well.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, good stuff. We get to see it on our screens as well instead of trying to get disconnected from the mainstream. Not disconnected in this game, though. All these players are ready to roll onto this rift, and CGA will hope that they don't have such a cataclysmic early game as they did last time. And Axiz will hope to close things out in the way they eventually did a little earlier into the game.
Yeah, Axiz probably hoping not to have a Baron and a Dragon taken away from them, you'd hope. Hoglet. And specifically about Hoglet. The analyst desk talked quite a bit about how strong he was, I think, fair to say, with the early... Oh, hello. With the early 10-minute Divine Sunder coming through there. And of course, I think he was like 4-0 at 10 minutes as well. I really need to see if Hoglet's going to perform again. Because that was a good setup there for the Axiz jungler. But was it a one-off, or was it something that they can do consistently?
And one thing which I'm now interested in, again, on the opposite numbers, that yes, okay, you have Viego in a similar situation where you're playing against similar champions, but there is now this Olaf in the fray. And I did say, you know, okay, it's not the Azir, who does have some ability, have some self-peel tools. This is an Orianna that has less ability to get away from an Olaf. That's right on top of them at that time. Cassin does have now the agency to really try and run through the backline and make things really painful for the side of Axiz, should they overstep.
Yeah, but time and time again, when you see an Olaf, especially one that does well, because Olaf has that tendency to go, 4-5 kills in the early games, like devastating you whenever you try and walk up, it's still an Olaf. Like, he falls off, I think, quicker than any other champion I've seen in League of Legends. Faster than a Pantheon.
So, well, I actually think that Pantheon, if you go for the Eclipse, is still incredibly broken. I mean, the thing is with an Olaf is that I think that if you have an Enchanter, you've got a Yuumi, Karma, Lulu, something that can speed you up and keep you shielded when you're at that below half HP point, when you are getting so much healing and attack speed, that's when you're a very powerful champion. I just don't like Olaf in isolation, but you can say that about so many different champions, right? Well, what is, if you're playing Jinx, but not with a Thresh, but like with, I don't know, a Brand or something that doesn't really offer anything but damage, that doesn't offer you anything in terms of heals, I think that can be a very problematic kind of situation too. It's always about combos in that kind of sense. But yes, I mean, I'm looking at Cass and I'm saying, yes, very strong player of that individual champion, but you have a timer on your head. You definitely do, and that's one which Hoglet doesn't have.
Well, speaking of Hoglet, visiting the mid lane nice and early, Kaito Nisidor just does get dodged around and gets out in one piece and doesn't even have to burn the flash in order to do it. So
I have no idea what spell shot they picked up there, but the move speed seriously saved their butt.
I believe that was a Yomu's.
That even makes even more sense. That is the perfect, hey, I need move speed in this situation. Hey, a free ghost, that looks great.
Basically, I mean, he was sitting on Kaito was sitting on a Prowler's Claw earlier as well. Like, he's already having some great assassin. We were talking about Talon earlier, and now we're seeing there's Talon items in Kaito's hand. I think they're trying to tell us something.
I have to say, the item pool and the way that the items changed in the game vastly impacted Zoe's game, because you no longer pick up stuff like Redemption. You're not getting heals and ignites on every other wave. Suddenly, a lot of the ability to fight is very dangerous, and fighting in the bot laner, Axiz!
Yeah, talking about fighting, Milan's just going to get straight up killed after a beautiful hook, and Nahyun will walk out without problems, but what a hook coming out there, and the versatility of Thresh. Oh, I'm not sure about that one. The Flay does work. The flash from Honey. Nemo might just sacrifice himself, but has flashes, and Hoglet coming in with, like, CGA's overstepped. Cassin realizes, oh crap, I don't want to be, I can't Ragnarok, I can't get out alive, he's going to go down, and this is a disaster. The Flame Chompers will not connect, but I don't even think you need to kill Nahyun, although if you're feeling it, you can go for that, but that is now a kill onto Honey and a kill onto Hoglet.
That it is. Oh no, it's those two again. The two. I mean, we don't even need 4 horsemen here on the side of Axiz. 2 will do, and they are Hoglet and they are Honey. Milan looks at them in their line and says, "Oi, I don't want you here. This is not good for my farming exposure." Going into that replay, seeing how this all came up, it starts as it so often does. Wave positioning in a prime position for Axiz where they can choose to engage beyond it. It's not under tower. They've frozen outside of that tower. Land the CC into the CC. Yes, there's a heal. Yes, there's a flash. No cleanse on the other side, though. Honey uses that to keep their auto attack up time strong. And though Cassin comes in, the Flay from Nemo just means that the extra CC can't come in from the Leona.
No shield of Daybreak getting them done there, and then the overchase here from CGA. Cassin, I don't think they had any idea that Hoglet was lurking nearby. You couldn't have to make a chase like that one, and
But I
really
think
unfortunate.
the thing is, like, that after a first clear, that basically the jungler is going to clear, effectively the same way around the same time, right? This is why one of the ways that junglers kind of can get tracked quite easily is you understand where they started at the first point, then you realize actually their camps are going to be respawning in a way that if they want to farm efficiently, they will end up at every couple of minutes on the camp timers towards that same side of the map. And yes, this is not only towards, the second clear, but CGA should have realized that if Olaf is going to be on that same side of the map and they've traded scuttles in the way that they did, the Viego should have been close. Now the junglers are once again butting heads towards the top side, though it looks like Hoglet doesn't really want anything to do with this and chooses not to fight the Olaf.
Yeah.
Bot lane's dead, but mid lane's being ganked.
Yeah, mid lane might be in the trouble. They're timing it really well. Their shockwave comes through, though. Will it be enough to turn the fight around? Nahun is taking down low. Hoglet could hunt for something, but chooses not to pursue that. Kaito looking pretty healthy. As bot lane, I hope we get a replay, but I'm willing to bet it's just gonna be a death sentence.
It's probably just gonna be a hook again, hook into Chompers,
Yeah.
because Milan doesn't have level 6, nor would it really matter at that point, because normally that's what you do on something like Misfortune to try and defensively clear the waves. And this is kind of the worry we had about the CGA rookie. We're gonna go back towards that replay because it wasn't even actually. Oh no, maybe they could have actually channeled their recall, but cancels it once, cancels it twice, gets hooks beyond the minion, Nemo landing that true, and I mean, you gave them the Thresh. I would have hoped you would have been prepared for Nemo's Thresh. It seems like they just simply aren't.
Yeah, it is very odd there, especially for recalling. There's no need not to recall onto your turret. Like, you could just walk back a little bit. Yes, it's a little bit timing, but it keeps you safe in the lane where you don't know where the wards are.
Let me posit you this. If you ever wanted to, like, I don't know, get a bag of crisps or something from the other side of the room when you sat on the sofa and you realize, you just realize it's just a little too far. No, you're not about that life. It's it's late onto Friday evening. You've done your day at work. You've done your week work, and you're just that like, yeah, I'm good. Don't really want to go do that extra effort. It's just the extra, lackadaisicalness of that kind of point where you just don't understand the actual kind of problems which could arise from you not really going for the safe recall. In fact, that used to be called the OGN recall back in the day because so many Korean pros used to just randomly recall in the weirdest of spots and get punished for it. Milan bringing that out here, sadly for him.
Yeah, and it does hurt quite a lot now because just look at. I love that Honey, every game without fail so far, has gone for a call, even if it's not efficient. It's wait, what is this mid lane roam? I love this. We'll get punished pretty hard. But...
I was wondering actually if there was going to be immediate shockwave thrown out by Mega Man, but Kaito still has flash. Might have to use it here. Oh, he's done.
Should have, but gets caught out there. The challenging smite goes down. Kaito runs for the heal and tries to fight back, but needs to be so careful, even with Nahun lurking about on this Leona. And Milan, who did, of course, roam up. Everyone, in fact, has roamed up here. We are likely to get, I'm going to go on a limb here, and say that they're going to fight over the Rift Herald.
As we so often do, because what we're seeing in the LJL is that we're seeing a lot of teams, of course, have historically gone towards dragons and tried to get to Soul Point, but that loses them out on early game gold, which means that they can't fight for later dragons. We've seen that worldwide, but now basically the LJL is starting to start trading more Herald fought those dragons. Last time there was a fight around, we're going to get another one now, not level 6 for Leona, though.
Yeah, Hoglet, though, taking down relatively low there, but CGA come through in force. Hoglet goes down using the flash there. Honey forced to run for the hills there as they will lose the Axiz support there. Megaman has already used Shockwave, and a beautiful Sleepy Trouble Bubble is denied courtesy of the cleanse, but Axiz forced away here, and I think CGA get themselves the free Herald.
I mean, they get themselves the first 2 kills, going to keep on going. There is a Mega Gnar with the flash now. That's the one X factor, but with the Honey recalling, no extended damage. CJ take a while to kill the Herald, but they get added value in the lost fight from Axiz.
I was a Jinx main for 2 years, trust me. The heart palpitations never go away when you see the Super Mega Death Rocket come flying out from you. But
no, they do not. I used to play a lot of that back in the day as well, back when I played a bit more AD carry in the early seasons of my league career. See, what this starts with is effectively just Nation getting the Aftershock, getting the W, and realizing, oh wait, there's actually not enough damage to kill the Leona. If you get that first kill, sure, you turn around with a stolen Zenith Blade, Shield of Daybreak yourself, you feel really good about proceedings, but not to be seen here. And Well, Kaito proceeds to keep Honey away from his summoner spells and says, "Yo, no cleanse." Maybe that will be a factor coming into later team fights too, because now we have a convergence of members down towards the bot side as a dragon spawns.
Yeah, even Nap coming down here says, "Oh, I don't got TP, but I don't need it when I'm the first man to Roman." So seeing the support's actually posturing and Engage coming through and a jump in over the wall. They're Honey.
Oh, Honey's in a bad
getting
spot.
nuked down. They will lose their support from the side of Axiz once again, getting picked off. And this is Dragon number 2, and I don't think Axiz are in a position to contest this. They're forced to give up yet another objective due to getting caught out of position.
Okay, so CGA, last time they put themselves on a bit of a hard mode when they said, okay, right, we'll try and get towards late game, we'll team fight it out there, and then gave over so much early gold, it just didn't matter even when they were finding good positions. Now they put themselves on a timer with the Olaf and say, all right, okay, we'll try and blow open the early game a bit more. But they have managed to find some inroads. It hasn't led to a gold advantage. That's what I'm worried about. No cleanse, they blew that earlier.
No. Yeah, TP flank, but it's not going to be enough. Honey's already gone. No flash used. Now Milan might be in trouble. The Hoglet will likely pick up the kill. And a double TP flank coming in from Axiz. They are angry. Inno coming in here. I'm not so sure that was necessary, but I think they're just trying to prove a point.
I think they're at that point because, I mean, they're tracking the enemy summoners. They should know that there's no teleports coming in there. That second teleport is a bit egregious. Of course, the bubble from Kaito paying off there because, of course, the cleanse blown in that mid lane fight does lead to a very easy pick onto the Jinx after that point. There is a super mega death rocket, and you can see it fly. You can see it to lower Edson.
Oh yes! I flashed into it. No, Nap, you can't do that, buddy. Oh man, that's the best feeling as a Jinx, and the worst feeling Nap has ever felt in his professional career at this point.
As soon as I saw the tower shots coming, I'm like, oh, it's gonna happen. Of course it's going to happen. And now it does. Honey dies out of the bot side, but it seems like it's not just, you know, his own play supporting his Jinx stats. A little bit of luck in there too. Seizes the opportunity.
Oh no, it's just Honey's death. Okay.
Yeah, this is the death, and you know there is a Guardian, there is a W shield. It just doesn't come out with nearly enough because the WQ comes in and just absolutely chunks through the HP bar. The double teleport is too much. It is at that point because you know that just with the resets from Hoglet, you're probably getting both those kills. At least you get some kill participation. All things said and done. Of course, I assume we're gonna go see the rest of this replay because Nap just dives beyond the wave, trying to, you know, brute force the wave shift and said, oh, okay, let's get that AoE in. Well, maybe not to the tune of 3 turret shots. Follows it up, takes him down. We don't get to see the actual
It's too fast with the camera.
replay, but it's too fast with the camera, zooming across it, and he flashes into it. To add insult to injury.
Yeah, it's the panic flash, and I think that is really selling how CJ are feeling. Like, we've all made silly mistakes like that in the moment of, you know, when you're really, really stressed out and you're overthinking everything, right? And we've seen it even at the world stage. I can't remember the player's name, but do you remember the Echo who flash ulted an edge that would have killed him, and like he used flash, he used ultimate, and then died in the back of a dragon pit? It was at Worlds. I don't remember who for the life of me it was, but
at Worlds, see, that's an interesting one because I only remember Worlds like that. The Echo only lasted for play-ins, so I'd imagine it might have been. It must have been a world play-in, so you know, sadly.
I think it was.
I remember V3 not doing very well at that tournament, so I tried to blot out memories because they lost everything. Nation caught out, does have a flash and uses it.
Yeah, and the chains of corruption coming out from Milan just to buy a little bit of space, but that gives us a really good set of how CGA are feeling. They're being stressed out a little bit here. We thought maybe coming in with the wealth of experience that most of the CGA lineup has when it comes to playoffs, that maybe they'd be a bit calmer, but it looks like CGA are panicking a little bit here with the way that they're playing. We saw Nat, you know, dying to the flash is the heartbreaking part there for the likes of
I thought
CGA,
he was a hero, not a villain. He died to him. Incredible. What's up with these superheroes' code of honor anymore?
And Inno is that Inno should be able to find, has the flash. Cassin though not letting him go, just runs him down. Olaf is a champion.
Angry.
It's disgusting.
Absolutely a champion, which is why I was sat there like, okay, so he hops over his head. Flash early. He doesn't have a flash to follow. You need to get away from the next axe. Doesn't do it. Flashes a couple of axes into the trade and gets absolutely mullered by Cassin on this rampant Olaf right now. You can see the gold. As much as Olaf's on a timer, Cassin is making full use of the seconds he's been given.
Yeah, and that's what you've got to do on this Olaf. You need to snowball the game basically out of control so that when your champion becomes a weird-looking minion with a large Viking hat, your team is so far ahead that it doesn't matter.
So that's what happened to the whole breaker, the hats on the minions, right? Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
All ended up on Olaf.
And in CGA's case, this is looking great. Yes, Honey has done Honey things. He's got the most amount of gold again. But 2 dragons secured by CGA, which was different to last game. And actually, I think CGA are in a great position to secure dragon number 3 as the J-Ram sets up and Kaito is poking on the side and takes Honey's entire health bar, basically. Says, all right, we'll take half of that. We'll take a third of it that way. Good luck in the team fight, Axiz, because you're quite low. Inno, though, has to make another diving on top. They're committed to 1 member, though. Not sure if Nakyun was worth it for theirs. Axiz keeping the fight alive. Milan trying to snap out Honey. Honey, though, staying alive on the backside there. Cassin on the front line doing well. But now CGA are forced to flee from the fight. And I worry it's a little bit too late, as that will be Nap going cut down a size there. A new pair of Crocs is Honey, who had no health at the start of the fight, has 2/3 sitting in that health bar now. CGA, the fight started off so well, and yet it went so badly.
And as much as there was some fancy feet involved, I mean, maybe just doing it instead of in ballet shoes, but more in Crocs, did not give them the grip, the tension to really try and keep this fight on edge. Really, you know, I was sat there looking at the front line from CGA and thinking, okay, cool, you kind of taken Honey out the fight, except you actually didn't, because you're over a wall. You don't have a flash, you got a ghost on the Olaf, and even that's down. No way to get to Honey after the end of that fight. I'm sure we're going to go see a replay of it. But that's going to lead to a dragon, a brace of kills going up to the side of Axiz, and they're very, very happy now, because once again, CGA will have to team fight their way back out. It's like, we team fight our way into this mess, we're going to have to team fight our way out of it. But it's going to be very difficult to do so.
Yeah, and now with the dragons, CGA, again, I talked about CGA and specifically the Olaf. This Olaf needs to have soul threatening, or at least, yeah, I think you have to have soul threatening when you become irrelevant. And now Axiz have the dragon. That buys, what is it, 5 minutes more?
Yep, 5 minutes.
And, well, that Olaf, as we talked about, it's a timer. Unfortunately, when you make a mistake, the timer doesn't stop for your convenience. The timer starts mocking you because you've made a horrible mistake. Because talking about mistakes, Nakyun is made yet another. Oh my god, shockwave! Just to prove a point. Benjamin's upset that Nakyun ran away from the challenge in midlane. That's what that shockwave was.
I'm not gonna lie, the New Age Star Trek movies were not great, but they did give us the fire everything phrase, which is incredibly relevant so often in League of Legends. So I thank them for that. And so do Axiz, because they pull out the full broadside, the full barrage against Nation there to take down the support. And this is actually something which, forgive me if I go on a tangent here, but it's something which I've been talking about a lot with a lot of other caster colleagues recently and otherwise. In the last couple of seasons of League of Legends, we've seen a real departure from Summoner and Ultimate economy, where you think, oh, yeah, you can get a kill, but you use like 2 flashes and ults to get it. It doesn't really matter at that point. Maybe you've lost more than you've really gained. Not anymore for the last couple of years. You get a kill onto the support, using that map advantage and, you know, the fact that you know that there's not going to be a support arriving to a play and stuff like that is so important. Getting a single kill opens up the map so much, particularly if it's a random one like that in rotation. And Axiz take off a lot of gold as well from the outer turrets of CGA.
Exactly. For context, Megaman's ultimate's back up. The only person whose ultimate was, I think Nemo did use his play in
Nemo used the blocks, Honey used the yeah, there were a lot of different things thrown at there, but I was saying like, yeah, but what's the response? What do you do? They're back up. They're already gone. Two items now been hit as well. So for the immediate investment of combat power and the ultimates, without the response afterwards, CJ don't really get anything for potential overinvestment on Axis side.
And, you know, Axiz on the other side obviously get to flex the fact that they threw everything in the kitchen sink to kill the man who ran away from the mid lane challenge. So obviously that's the obvious flex that came through there. Is looking at Hoglet, he is sitting on that Rift Herald about half the time left. I feel like the mid lane has to be where you drop this Rift Herald, but CGA, they already know, and they're not gonna, like, you're gonna have to fully J-ram this, like, with all 5 members to get this Rift Herald to go.
I mean, they have their Womba back up. Kaito looking for the wave clip, but every time they jump forward, there's a Nemo hook waiting on the other end of it. Herald has been summoned. Nap available for the flank. Will be spotted out if he goes through the bot river brush.
Yeah, and that's a bit of the problem there is Nap wants to try and threaten it, but didn't really need to. CGA's turret still stands after the Rift Herald charge here, and now 1.5 minutes until the next. Nice hook there. Nakun forced to throw themselves in there. But Axiz's backline still stands. Nap trying to get onto it, but it doesn't matter. The shockwave lands on nothing as Nap has Axiz the backline. Axiz has nothing protecting it, finally coming through there. As Inno dives into the backline itself. Axiz held on long enough. The boulder toss goes a little bit wide there, but CGA.
No, Elton.
He's no longer standing. And CGA, they look lost in that team fight. I felt like I was watching two different teams fight the same team fight, all the members from CGA, but it felt like two separate teams.
It did. It was very, very split. I'd actually really like to see a real replay of that where we can kind of see the positioning of everyone. And where it really started getting split up, we do see the Baron started again. Not to be the bane of Axiz this time. No extension. Axiz much more clean on the approach course. No smite, no flash, no mobility to get into the pit from Outcast. And even if they were there, Dragon available for CJ for the taking, but there are teleports to respond for Axiz, and they pull out a double teleport, not for the first time this game, to make sure CJ don't get a quick crack at the Drake.
Yeah, CGA are now forced to contest with Axiz forces. It buys enough time for Hoglet to arrive, who's obviously the big important one is Inno. Oh, this could be Mega time. This could look for something. He's diving into the backline, lands on nothing. That's a bit of an oopsies there. But Megamin and Honey are still left alive in the backline there. CGA's counterattack did not work. CGA now low on health bars, gonna lose more moments. Kaito, one more hit, he's gonna go down here. The zap should be more than enough. No, this times it, but then Mike gets the auto attack. Does have the excited now as CGA forced to run for the hills there, but how far can you run when Axiz is on the hunt? The Ultra's on Nap dives in, but it's not gonna matter. He goes down, and now CGA, the remnants of a team that looked so good for the first 23 minutes or so, it's fallen apart in two team fights.
Nap saves them from utter disaster by killing the Jinx, which is the real tower killer here from Axiz. But instead of ending the game, which it very well could have done at that point, or at least led to an inhib, it's just going to be, oh, I guess a 5-for-1 and 2 turrets taken across the board. Because remember, Baron is still in play after all this time. Axiz, no, they haven't spent a lot of time actually pushing down towards towers with that Baron buff. They still get a huge amount of gold out from this Baron power play, plus 4,000 to get themselves up to another 10,000 gold lead, actually just sitting about 9 right now. And this is where, you know, we really start seeing the wheels coming off. CJ don't have a front line to stand behind. Kaito looking for tricksy plays, but not having the poise to really pull it off. Megamin, Honey, untouched at this point. Nemo playing blocker, doesn't care that he's lost 2/3 of his HP. Realize that if he dies, it doesn't actually matter. As long as Honey can keep running forward, as long as Megamin is kept safe as well, the damage is still available. And Nap, as much as we praise him for always reaching the 80 carry, it's much too little, much too late.
Yeah, and if I finally worked out why these team fights look so weird to me. CGA is running effectively a poke composition, right? You've got the Zoe, you've got the Varus.
They're trying to hard engage with the poke composition.
Exactly, and that's why I looked at that last team fight and I'm thinking, okay, you landed a Solar Flare onto Megamin and he took 0 damage from anyone else. Like, why is that happening? And that's because your front line is being bogged down and your poke champions, your Varus, your Zoe, they're hitting the Gnar. And that's a bit of a problem when Gnar isn't the problem. Gnar is simply the meat shield.
No, what this comp is meant to do is land asleep onto a carry and then follow up with the Varus WQ. At that point, you think, wow, maybe you can kill something. Not when you're 2-4-2 and almost been Flame Horizon by your opposite number. That just doesn't happen at that point. And now the crux, the real fulcrum of what CGA are looking for, where they can turn around in a fight, is not available. CGA don't even have, the late game ultimate scaling of the Misfortune, as we were saying, which, I mean, as much as I'm not a fan of the pick, I think that actually CGA lose out way too much in lane. At least it gave them the chance of the miracle comeback, whereas right now you are looking for not just 1 bubble, but probably 2, maybe even 3 before the game really turns around. And that's in a perfect scenario where Kaito doesn't get caught by a Thresh Hook after that point. This is very, very difficult for CJ to play out, because if they fall behind, their team fights are not optimal, nor are they easy. But CJ, as we know them as a team, often fall behind. They don't win lane. They don't get to a point where they get gold leads at 15 very often either. This seems to be against what I would suggest this team tends to succeed at. And maybe that plays into the reason that they're currently now looking at maybe a 6-game loss streak in the LJL.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason, and as well as their mid laner right now, Kaito, yes, we acknowledge that he is the sub being pulled in. It hasn't looked great for the substitute mid laner here of CGA.
even on the likes of the Zoe, it seems to be a very comfortable champion. Their Syndra's being denied every game. It hasn't looked comfortable on the field here, and that might be a little bit of miscoordination between the CGA members, because how often do they play with their substitute mid laner? Is a question you do have to start asking. And for Axiz, it's all guns. Every cylinder is firing. They're in a great position. Their win condition, Honey is online. Hoglet's had a great game again.
Hang on. We call it Star Trek mode now. I did make that pun for nothing. I've got to get some mileage out of it.
I know next to absolutely nothing about Star Trek, so you picked the wrong.
But you know that one clip, right? That's enough at that point.
I have never seen that one clip either, so You've
never seen the oh my gosh, you've never seen the Fire Everything clip? Well, okay, well we'll get it to get dubbed over that one kill onto Nation. Like, I know we were casting it at the point, but I feel like this has got now a much more educational purpose. Hopefully it also educates CGA that probably shouldn't be picking drafts like this and playing so lackadaisically too.
And of that draft, there's one other really unfortunate thing for CGA. With 1 minute left until Dragon number 5, Olaf is now a glorified angry minion.
Well, it's the minion with the funny hat on.
It's the minion with the funny hat on. He's got Olaf at 2 items is where he starts to just completely collapse. Unless he's
actually become like a Viking hat fall guy, as luckily no one falls that from CGA. I'm not sure which game mode they were playing in that one, but it was certainly comedic, much like the aforementioned game.
And a bit of a botched ultimate from Inno is a little unfortunate. It will allow CGA to back away, but Hogan has got a flank. CGA are in trouble. They're going to have to retreat over to the Dragon Pit, which isn't the worst place to be forced to retreat to, but Baron is alive as well. Do you make this kind of trade as the poke is trying to land, but Axiz are poking forwards themselves there, and they have the inside track. They could just abandon the fight. I think they might actually go for the inhibitor line, and CGA, like, you can't walk here.
Well, they're just securing mid-priority to give themselves the option of doing that. No, they're not on the Dragon already. They're not close enough to burst it down. Plus, there are teleports for Axiz to start moving around the map too, whereas there's only the one on the side of CGA. Nor do I think one teleport from Nap is going to be important. He needs to be there at the fight. He needs to be holding the door shut so Axiz potentially don't kill off the first carries too quickly. Hoglet on the side. This could be important, but the Heartbreaker Strike carries him out.
Oh, Inno, look at Inno on the flank. This could be a disaster. Jumps in, does he hit the flash? Nobody slams him in, and that is a wild overwording, man. That is devastation. CGA, you blink, you miss them, they're dead. That is CGA wiped from the face of the earth there. What a flank from Inno once again. This top laner, this battering ram.
He finds his way into the fight every time so far. This is now becoming a serious issue. It's far past becoming a serious issue. It's coming to a game point, a round 1 match point for Axiz.
Yeah, and this is where CGA seriously have to look at their draft and say, okay, what do we do? What do we need to change here? Because you've made the same drafting choices twice in a row, and Axiz has put you down. This time, in game number 2, looked so much better than they did in game number 1 here. You have to change something now. You have reached the point where change is mandatory. Be like Kha'Zix, what you picked in that first game, because change is good.
Change is good, and I don't know. I mean, it uses like consume and adapt. Well, maybe they need to improvise, adapt, overcome, or whatever the horrible meme was with that one graphic. And pretty horrible to see CGA's early games in this too. I mean, this one was markedly better than the last one, and it still didn't hold really anything, a candle to the bright burning torch of Axiz at this point. There's way too much comfort being given to Axiz. There's no, I mean, at this point, again, we start having to questioning what the hell's happening with the Ziggs. What's the hell's happening with letting the Thresh through? There is some serious issues with what CJ are drafting. They can team fight in the late game. We know that, but they are never getting there with any semblance of an even game.
Yeah, and that is, again, drafting, we've talked about it. Nation's champion pool is I think part of the problem with this game right now. They're clearly not comfortable taking the Thresh. They clearly don't want to ban it because they've got other things they have to take while banning. There's too many things on the table and not enough cats to get them off the damn table. So for CGA, you now have to say the current ban lists aren't working. Maybe we have to go for some new ones. There's a lot of things to take a look at there, but I think it's fair to say that we should probably let the analyst desk take a bit of a closer look at that one there. So what we'll do, guys, we'll do a short break, and when we come back, the analyst desk will be taking a look at game number 2 between Axiz and CGA.